My immense pleasure to introduce Dr. SUSHEEL K. THARIAN, Chairman of EMFI. He did undergraduate and postgraduate studies in CMC Vellore, Tamil Nadu. Currently worked as a head of the Department of Psychiatry, Christian Fellowship Hospital, Vadanchetram, Tamil Nadu. He married to Dr. Valsa. She is a ENT surgeon, worked at same hospital, Christian Fellowship Hospital, Tamil Nadu. He actively involved in the seminars. What seminars? Marriage enrichment seminars, especially for Indian missionaries. Give a big applause to Dr. K. SUSHEEL. Welcome to sir. Whoever hands, give a big applause.
Thank you. We started with a keynote address on the importance of relationship, how to avoid disintegration, and the priority of spiritual life. And we heard about the fellowship, how EMFI was started. And then we went on to AI, automation and robotic surgery. So what am I here talking about a mundane topic like the doctor and his or her family? Long time back, I used to think that family is a hindrance for Christian medical work or mission work. But that has changed immensely. And one reason for that change was because of one person and his ministry. That person sitting at the last, somewhere last at the audience, Mr. Hansraj Jain. He was the first EMFI staff worker. And he moved on to start a ministry called the Inheritors. In the beginning, their primary activity was training people for marriage enrichment seminars. And my wife and I attended that and subsequently for other training. And we both were involved in marriage enrichment seminars for Christians, especially for the Indian missionaries. In fact, the catalyst and one of the early founders of EMFI, Dr. Frank Garlick, a professor of surgery from Australia, after he went back to Australia, he felt the family ministry is a very important thing. Then he and his wife together started doing that. He came to India as well to conduct some seminars. So through various inputs like this, we were encouraged to be involved more with families. So the doctor's family is an enviable family because of high income, high status, high achieving lifestyle. But it's also a stressful family. There is progressive emotional separation. Sometimes it evolves into nothing more than a professional support system. That's sad, isn't it? Do you know that suicide is 2 to 3 times higher than in the general population? One NEJM report says. To some doctors, wife or children's needs are secondary. And they are surprised why their families don't function with the same orderliness of their medical practice. Some strange factors. Workaholics are admired in medicine. A doctor is expected to be a modern Saraswati with multiple hands. Medicine seems to value competition over nurturing. The reductionist model that we all practice, it dehumanizes the patient and the physician. And doctors, most of them are obsessive compulsive perfectionists in an imperfect medical system. Leads to a lot of frustration and disappointment. Many patients call their doctors God. Sad part is the doctors also tend to believe it. It seems doctors cannot make any mistake. For a doctor, cry for help is considered to be a weakness. Sometimes I wonder whether doctors graduate with post-traumatic stress disorder. I remember after my MD exam, for many times I had nightmares about going for the oral exam with the examiner repeatedly. So the need for a healthy family is all the more important for a doctor. Family is God's intention, and the family of a Christian is to function like a church in miniature. Like a church in miniature. So the biblical purpose of parenting and grandparenting is to impress the hearts of the children with a love for God. We read in the Bible the sad statement. This is a tragic era of the judges. After that, the whole generation had been gathered to their fathers. Another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what He had done for Israel. Sad, isn't it? If that should not happen to our families, we need to encourage family prayer time together. Going to church together. The children has to learn. When we had our daughter as a tiny infant, we used to take her for all the Bible studies. We'd put a sheet and she'll lie down there and we used to attend. Wherever we had EU meetings or EMFI meetings, we took her. So she grew up with us, with EU and EMFI. And she knew all the songs that we sing. Healthy families are essential to the health of a society. It is in family that we learn the values and the right attitudes. But also remember, it is in family where the greatest hostility, stress, and anxiety is experienced, learned, and expressed. This may surprise you, but the primary intention of marriage is not procreation, but companionship and wholeness. Companionship and wholeness. Because we read in the Bible, God said, it's not good that a man should be alone. God intended marriage for a lifetime, and children are present only a part of that lifetime. It is a companionship of husband and wife, a lifetime. The Great Commission. The Great Commission is fulfilled through the family. The primary mode of evangelism is through family from one generation to another. That's what we read in the Bible, in the early churches also. Joshua tell your children what the Lord has done. Children to children's children. Through family, the evangelism. So parents should strive to give their children a more biblical foundation than what they themselves had. It should start from their early days. No nation can survive the disintegration of family. Historians, secular historians say one of the main reasons for the collapse of the great Roman and Greek society is because of the low value they gave for families. The low value they gave for families. The legendary strength of Indian family too is slowly crumbling. I looked at this figure some time back. It's an old figure. There are many figures, so this may not be fully accurate. The divorce rates in the world per 100 marriage. And this is what I found. High rates. The rate in India may be much lower. We don't have exact figure. But sadly, it is sharply increasing, especially among the software technologists. And I wouldn't be surprised if they say the next group will be the doctors. The way things are going. Today we live in a disposable culture. Disposable syringe, disposable gowns, disposable everything. One time use and throw it off. I was surprised that I was reading the Olympus, we got the endoscope. They say the official policy of Olympus company is to replace and not repair. If something doesn't work, throw it away, get a new one. Sometime back I was traveling in Tamil Nadu state government bus one day. It was raining and the wiper was not working. And they took the bus straight to their workshop, government workshop. Person came there, took something and just cut off the wiper, put a new wiper. No question looking at why it's not working. Doesn't work? Throw it away. Sadly, this comes to marriages also. No repair. No time for repair. Replace. When I was introduced, the leader said that we are involved in marriage enrichment seminar, especially for Indian missionaries. Why Indian missionaries? Can missionaries have problem in their families? Yes. Missionaries are also real people and there are enough problems in their families too, in doctors' families as well. In fact, I had the sad experience of having to counsel a missionary family who used to fight with each other, physical fights, and the neighbors had to come and separate them. Neighbors with whom they are supposed to work as missionaries. I wonder what idea they have when they talk about the gospel to them. So we need to enrich marriage, enrich families, and keep it growing. Not trying to solve problem. You may not have problem, but make marriages enriched. That was the goal of the inheritors who started the marriage enrichment seminar. Make good marriages better. Very true. I work as a psychiatrist, so I sometimes deal with people with problem in their marriage. It is 5 or 10 times more difficult to help a couple who have gone into problems, so much easier to prevent the problem. I wish they all had attended marriage enrichment seminars early in their life. Marriage offers one of the deepest and the most intimate of all relationships between two people. But remember, when two committed Christians get married, the marriages will not grow day by day by itself. They have to work at it. Now when you hear, oh, that was a beautiful marriage, wonderful marriage, we talk about wedding function, that doesn't mean that the marriage will continue that way. Very often it doesn't. Because we need to work at it on a daily basis. Because when we get married, we come from two different backgrounds. She comes from her background, he comes from his background, and when they come together in marriage, they start living as one body. So that needs a lot of understanding, acceptance, and adjustment. There needs to be giving and taking. One of the important functions in a marriage is communication. And the root cause of most problems in marriage is in the area of communication. So I thought I'll talk a little bit more about communication. You know, communication is an interaction, but the other person needs to understand what this person is saying. Not that they talk different languages, but how the other person understands the word or an action could be different. Now, when you talk about communication, we think words. They are the most important. Are words important? Of course, words are important in communication. How important? You know, when I go to a restaurant, when I see two people talking like this, I would say they are not yet married. And after they are married, they become from endless chatter to hardly talking couple. Is this a reality? I hope it is not in our families. But why? Why has the communication deteriorated? Are words important? But communication experts say words constitute only 7% of our communication. Are you surprised? Words constitute only 7% of our communication. Just 7%. And then the tone of speech is 38%. If I come to your house and ring the bell and you see me, hopefully you might say something like this. You want to call me inside and give me a cup of tea or something. But the person says the same thing. Good morning, sir. I'm happy to see you. Please come in. Would you like to have a cup of coffee? Or, good morning, sir. Please come. Would you like to have a cup of coffee? Same words. Doesn't the tone make a difference? That's why 38% is the tone. And the non-verbal communication is 55% non-verbal. So communication includes all this. So good communication does not come to us naturally. We need to work at it. We need to stop assuming and start communicating. Some 15 years after we got married, we attended a seminar, an international seminar, where the leader, one part of the seminar was communication between the couple. So we are supposed to write down as a homework what I like, both of us, separately. And the next day we are supposed to show each other. So I thought, 15 years, I know what she likes. She thought she knew what I liked. But we were surprised that what we wrote were very different. That's because we assumed, this is what she likes, this is what he likes, this is what he doesn't like. We need to open our mouth at least and communicate with our spouses, our likes, dislikes at least. So we need to stop assuming. Somebody said, assume means making an ass of you and me. Assume. So words are only 7%, tone 38%, and non-verbal 55%. All are important. Again, communication experts talk about different levels of communication. Level 1 is called a cliche communication. You know what's cliche? Well worn out words. which has lost their meaning and become meaningless, sometimes even annoying. Like good morning, hello, how are you? Words like that. Those days when we were joined as medical students, we had this practice of ragging, and our seniors will catch us and make fun of anything that we say. So we are supposed to say, good morning, sir. And we say good morning, one of the seniors would ask, what is good about the morning? Then only we start thinking. Now we all say good morning, good evening. Do we think what that means? Yes, probably it has a meaning. Wish you a good morning, but that's not what we think. How about how are you? We don't even listen to the reply. Somebody went for a wedding reception and he wanted to try. When you greet the person, you say something. How much does the person listen? We don't know. So he said this, my mother died yesterday. That's what he did. And bridegroom said, thank you. How nice of you to say that. The words have lost their meaning. You would have expected congratulations or something. Okay. These are called cliche words. But if a conversation is only cliche words, it won't have much meaning. But cliche words are important in starting a conversation. You say hi and all to start with, but that's all the value. You need to go further. The second is reporting of facts. Just facts, what happened. Your husband comes home and says, what happened in the hospital? I saw so many patients. Just facts. That's not enough. Sharing of what you think. In other words, sharing your opinion. What's your opinion? Opinions are not facts, but what do you think about them? Opinions can vary, it can be argued, you can agree or disagree. For example, football is boring. You can either agree or disagree. Not a fact, your opinion. Pizza is delicious. Or maths is the hardest subject. I think many of us would agree that, in medical field at least. But there may be others who disagree. They're not facts, they're all opinion, but they're important. In a family, in communication, telling your opinion about everyday things, not just reporting facts, is important. You can say some of these facts, but opinion can be that she looks like Little Red Riding Hood, or she looks scary, and so on. They're all opinions. But remember, whenever we give our opinion, it is just an opinion. Now, is that enough in a communication? No. We need to share our feelings and emotion as well if our communication has to be good. Sharing your feelings and emotion, happiness, sadness. But the level 5 communication is a no barrier communication. This is what is expected in a good marriage. But in a good marriage, at least level 4 or level 5 communication should be there. So, from cliches to facts to opinions to feelings and complete openness. So we need to complement our words with the right tone and attention. We need to express in words. We must learn our love and appreciation and our affirmation. Now we are very quick to express in words our criticism. But are we quick to express our appreciation? When I come home, people say, I'm getting a nice smell of something, biryani or something. Wife will be very happy. Or if, after a speech like this, my wife were here, she's not here unfortunately, your talk was nice, I'd feel happy. She can always say, he knows that I appreciate, but express in words your appreciation and love. We are all very stingy about appreciation. We are generous about criticisms. But we need to express our feelings with humility and honesty and avoid harsh words, harsh sounding words. So there are some skills of self-expression that we need to learn. We need to learn, first of all, to tell what I have perceived with my sense organs. What do I see? What did I see? What did I hear? We need to tell what I think about them, my opinions. We need to share what I feel about them, my emotions. And we can tell what I want, my aspirations, my choices, and what I do, what I did, what I do, what I want to do. All this, if you divide into these groups, there are so many things to share. What I perceived, what I think, what I feel, what I want, and what I do. One of the problems in communication in marriages and in family is our using I messages, using you messages rather than I messages. Do you know what that is? Why don't you ever say something nice about me? One of the spouses said this. So, you see that word, you there? And you see the hand there? Why don't you say something? Oh, you never say something nice about me. Can we change that you into I? How can we do that? I will be very happy if you will tell me something nice about me. Which is better to hear? Same thing, the same thing. Isn't this I better to hear? Easier to hear? You know, none of us like being accused or ordered. Somebody did an experiment in a conference like this. They wanted the people on this side to move to that side, and people on that side to come to this side. So the leader said, I want all of you in the front row to move to that side, and those of you in the front row here come to this side. And the next meeting, in the next session. Very few people did that. The next day, another leader did the same thing, but he said, I would like those in the front row to move here and those in the front row there to move here. You know what is the difference? Same words, but the hand. First person said like this, second person said like this. You know, this is more a gesture of a request. This is more of a order, you. People don't like being ordered. Same thing in families also. Another example, you're always late to come home from work. I think many husbands have heard this many times. How can you change that you to I? I feel upset when you come home late. I was hoping we could go for shopping together. I. In fact, that was the truth. The second one is the truth, but she put it in the you form. You always so long to get ready. I think many wives hear this. I think it'll be good if we can get ready early. If we can get ready early. You never listen to me. I feel upset that I am not listened to. When I was doing my internship, I was working with the former chairman of EMFI, Dr. Kurula Varki. You know, he was my immediate senior then. So, internship was so busy. Sick patients are there. So he said, shall we see this patient every 2 hours? I said, yes. I thought we both are going to see. In fact, what he meant was, please see this patient every 2 hours. I realized it later when I missed that second time. But this we, I, makes communication softer and easier to receive. So I message, I feel like this when you say something because, or can you please, these words, or I would prefer, these will reduce conflicts in a family. By giving I messages, we communicate honestly our feelings. We are actually being truthful. I messages are more constructive and realistic. Another problem is sarcastic speech. Sarcastic speech may elicit a laughter in a group, but the person to whom is directed always feels hurt. Remember that. Try to reduce sarcastic speech, words in your speech. The important part of listening is not in communication is not speaking, but listening. Somebody said that's why God gave us 2 ears and only 1 tongue. Bible says everyone must be quick to listen. And what kind of listening? Active listening. What is active listening? Active listening is listening with interest. When someone says something, you acknowledge, I see. Mm-hmm. Oh, some words like that. That shows that you're actively listening. Listen with attention, openness, and interest. And listen to the feelings of that person also. How to be a good listener? That is, we must learn to receive the feelings. Many men are guilty of this. When you come home tired from a work and the wife says, the stove is not working, the tap is leaking, immediately go there to repair. No, what she wants is to listen to her woes. So I had all these problems, so I had a tough day. That's what she wants to say. But men are doers. They want to immediately solve the problem. But listen and say, I see, so you must have had a hard day today. That's all she wants to hear. And then you can go and repair the pipe. Giving an understanding response, that the term means, briefly summarizing what you hear. Maybe your wife has to say a lot of things at the end. Okay, what you are trying, what you mean is this summary, short summary, or one-word summary. She would say, yes. Or if it is not so, very often, no, we don't listen much and we may give a wrong summary. No, that's not what I meant. I meant this. Then you say, okay, so you meant this. Clarify. This is called giving an understanding response. Because perceptions can vary. If I ask you, are there 3 sticks or 4 sticks here? What would you say? Of course, you will never see such things. Only in a picture you see like this, but perceptions can vary. One of the barriers for communication is fear. Will she or will he misunderstand? But the Bible says there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. Fear is a barrier to communication. So when in our listening, we need to listen non-judgmentally. Don't immediately give your judgment as soon as you hear something. Oh, our son tore that paper. Oh, why didn't you keep that paper carefully? Don't give an immediate judgment response. Non-judgmental, so that the communication can continue. The last part that I want to talk is burnout in a doctor's life, even in a family life. What is burnout? Losing your charge. The dictionary says burnout is to cease functioning as a result of exhaustion of fuel supply. BMJ in 1987 said the most important factors for a burnout for a doctor is probably, first of all, the personality, the characteristics of a job, such as responsibility, variety of tasks, the hours involved, and poor support and reward from others. You may not get this from your colleagues, but at least you should get it from your family. Support for the doctor. A word of affirmation can do wonders. The Jesus model is, Jesus was careful, model of preventing burnout. He was careful in his ministry. We read that he used a house in Bethany to relax and, so to say, recharge his batteries. We read in John chapter 4, he was going to talk to the Samaritan woman. He was tired from the journey and he sat down at the well before talking to the Samaritan woman. So the Jesus model is, he sat down at a hillside before the Sermon on the Mount. So we need to learn from people like Mary to sit at the feet of Jesus. Jesus himself sat down. So we also need to sit down sometime from our busy work. Christian life is a long race, not a 100-meter dash. Paul says, I finished the race. There may be some obstacles. We are called to burn out, not to get burnt out. If the devil cannot make you bad, he will make you too busy. Read the biographies of God's people. If you don't take time for your family, your work, and your spiritual life will suffer. Paul was a busy apostle, but he says, the Lord stood with me and strengthened me. And he also says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Balancing the ministry and the family, balancing our work and the family is a great balancing act. To many, ministry is easier than the challenges of the family. I am answerable to God for my family. As somebody said, there may be many who can do the ministry, but you are the only one for your family. A leader must be well thought of, committed to his wife. He must handle his own affairs well. He should be attentive to his own children and having their respect. The importance of family, Paul mentioned. Earning money, getting promotion, publishing papers in prestigious journals, all have their place. But they are not what life is all about. On the contrary, time is the most valuable commodity that you have. Somebody said, if your house is burgled or house is broken down, it's a big loss, but that can be replaced. But if you lose your time, you won't get that back again. The Bible says, pay careful attention then how you walk, not as unwise people, but as wise, making most of the time because the days are evil. Spend time with your family. Your children will grow up. You will never get a 7-year-old again. So remember that, spend time with your family. We heard in the morning Dr. Burgess Philip telling us about the body and the soul and our work. We must recognize that our careers are important and that honest work is blessed by God. But your family is more important. Bible talks about loving your spouses, love your wife. The Bible challenges us to invest in our spouses. And that requires time and a measure of sacrifice. That involves a measure of sacrifice. Parents are called to be the primary spiritual mentors of their children. When God established the Passover celebration, He intentionally designed it to include a dialogue between children and their elders, as we read in Exodus chapter 12. We need to be interested in developing the future generation for God. This doesn't mean that you can only talk to your children about spiritual things, but it does mean that you need to invest your time. And you need to keep the lines of communication with your children open. If your work schedule leaves family members feeling abandoned or isolated, you need to re-evaluate your priorities and compare them to a biblical view of work-life balance. You know how children spell love for them? They spell like this, T-I-M-E. It's not the amount of gift that you give to them. That's not a replacement for the time that you spend. If you have less time, make that a quality time, undivided attention to the children. Today, in the 20th and 21st century, we have delegation parenting. But parents are to take the primary responsibility for the evangelism and the spiritual formation of their children, not the grandparents or the uncles or aunts or your pastor in the church. So often our families get lost in the wake of self-centered lives disguised as ministries. Even in your busy work, always keep in touch with your family, however busy you are. Now we have mobile phones, we can always call, send short messages. What do you do? Whenever I travel, I always send a message, I got into the bus. Or, now I am at the railway station. Give a running commentary. No, keep in touch. Always. Set a limit on your time. And when you have so many things to do, don't think we are gods. God has His plan, His people. I don't have to take up the responsibility of God to manage the whole world. In fact, Jesus said, "My yoke is easy, my burden is light." He gives us only that burden that we can carry. He doesn't overload with something which we cannot carry, but we tend to load it more on ourselves. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. So we can ask ourselves how we can use best use of our time. On some days that might mean working a little longer in order to complete a project on time or to see a sick patient. On other days, we may take time off to care for a friend or spend a special day with our family or children. Because our bodies are the temples of the Holy Spirit through which we experience God and serve others. Therefore, we need rest and exercise. You know, in physiology we learn the heart functions with a systole and a diastole. If a systole has to be effective, there has to be a diastole. The heart has to relax and receive blood. Then only it can pump the blood to the whole body. There's a story of two people cutting wood, an old man and a young man. The young man was very vigorous, went on cutting wood. Old man would cut wood for some time, then he goes off somewhere. He doesn't know where he went. Then again he comes back. He cuts the wood for some time, then he went back. Again he came back, he did that. End of the day, they found that the old man had cut more wood than the young man, who was working continuously. He said, "How is it possible? I didn't see you in between. You went off somewhere. Where did you go?" Old man said, "I went to sharpen my axe." I went to sharpen my axe. We need times to sharpen our axes. So the work and life is a dynamic balance, it has to be. So may God help us to enrich our families, and may we be a blessing to our families, and our family will in turn be a blessing to us. God bless you.